What is up, guys? Ed Bandicoot 101 here, and welcome to my review of the Oculus Rift. This is a long awaited video, and I know you guys watched the hell out of my unboxing of the device, so let's talk about how I feel about it, having used it for several weeks now. This arrived with me on the 15th of April 2016, so it was about 2 weeks later than anticipated originally. But I didn't pay shipping, obviously, so I was in the pre-orders, and I got it pretty damn early, so I can't really moan too much. I live in England, so this thing cost me, as I didn't pay shipping, £499, which is about equivalent to $700 to $800 as previously mentioned. That's hella expensive. Stuff in England costs a lot more in terms of computer parts, and I'm aware of that. You know, graphics cards tend to be 10 to 20% more expensive over here. Same with the Oculus, 10 to 20% more expensive. But that's the price I'm willing to pay for living in England, I guess. But I have it nonetheless, and it's cost me around $700 to $800, depending on where the dollar's falling on the market right now, which is pretty damn expensive. So is this device worth the money? First I want to talk about the pros, then I'm going to talk about the cons of the device, and I've got a list of them on my phone, so I actually remember to go over everything I've experienced so far with the device. But I've got a list of pros and cons which I'm going to go over, and then the conclusion is going to wrap up whether I think you should buy one. So, the pros. The refresh rate of this beast is 90 Hz, so that's 90 frames per second delivered to each eye. That feels smooth. Congratulations, Oculus, you got that down right. The Rift feels incredibly smooth. 90 Hz does trick your brain into thinking there's actual motion there. Obviously it has VSync turned on all the time, but 90 Hz does trick your brain into thinking that the motion there is like real life, and it doesn't have any perceived latency or any feeling like that. It actually feels incredibly smooth. And when you turn around, there's very little like response time. It feels seamless. The motion from when you move your head to when the device moves. Obviously, I can't show you guys what that's like, but it feels absolutely, completely the same time when you turn, wherever you look. It does it in real time, and there's no perceived motion of the screen moving. It moves perfectly. 90 Hz was right. The latency in the input is fantastic, better than I expected, in all honesty. And that results in another big pro that I want to talk about, which is motion sickness. Now, yes, VR does make you a little bit motion sick. In fact, if you put a 35 Hz 1440p phone into a VR headset like Google Cardboard and put it on me, within 10 minutes I am fucking upchucking everywhere. I throw up, I'm really bad with motion sickness. I can't really use my phone in a car while someone else is driving because I get so motion sick. So I was a little bit, dubious buying a virtual reality headset, being susceptible to motion sickness. However, you do start to feel a little bit ill after 5 to 10 minutes of use. You feel a little bit queasy, a tiny bit queasy, maybe a little bit of a headache. You feel a bit off. This sensation doesn't get any worse, and for me at least, in my use of the device, it doesn't get any worse, and you just feel a little bit off the whole time you're playing, like a little bit, I wouldn't say queasy, but I'd say a little bit heady, a little bit less well than normal. But I didn't actually get motion sick. I never threw up, and I've used the device for 2 hours without taking it off playing different games, without taking it off for one moment. So that shows that I didn't get sick at all. When I was playing Eve Valkyrie, which is rated an intense game that's meant to make you very motion sick. So I'd say on the motion sickness front, due to the very smooth latency, the refresh rate, I think it's fantastic that I don't get motion sick using it. So I'm really happy about that, and I'm really grateful that Oculus managed to get it so it doesn't make you motion sick. So the box, as you can see in my unboxing, which will be linked in the description, is fantastic. The packaging's immaculate, and the actual overall build quality of the product and all the stuff you get with it is top notch. Probably the best tech device I own in terms of build quality. Absolutely fantastic. I can't fault it. Well done on the packaging and well done on the actual product itself, because it feels incredibly premium, and I can tell I spent a lot of money on this just by holding it and feeling it. And that doesn't mean it's heavy, but it does feel very sturdy. It's not uncomfortable to use either. This brings me on to my next point with comfort. How comfortable is the device? Yes, if you put it on a bit tight and you play it for hours on end, you get an imprint on your face. But it doesn't have any pressure points personally on my head anywhere. And if you set the elasticity, so obviously it's all adjustable. If you set it right to your head, I didn't experience any discomfort playing for in excess of 2 hours. And if you set it right, it's going to be absolutely fantastic, and there's not going to be any discomfort while using the device. It's really comfortable. I'm surprised they got that right, because no other VR headset I've used has been comfortable. This one, however, is. So, ease of use. Very easy to use, actually. Another pro. We're going through all the pros first, just to try and sell it to you guys initially, I guess. So going through the pros again, ease of use. You download the software, you plug it in, it updates games, it installs games, you click on it, it boots it all stock. As a techie, I kind of like having stuff to play around with. And in the options menus and in Steam VR, there are loads of options you can play around with and get it working to your spec. But in terms of ease of use, it is a plug and play device. Considering it's all in beta, all the software's still in beta technically, it's plug and play. You plug it in, you put it on your head, you set it up, and it works. It's not a big deal. There's no finicky menus that are horrible. There's no real difficult setup. You create an account, you download the software, you plug it in, you open a game. It's that easy. It is that easy. You do not need technical knowledge to work out how to use it. You follow the on-screen instructions and you plug it in. So easy to use. I'm really surprised by that. This is why I think VR is now going to be a mainstream thing. It's surely because of the easy use of this device. So yeah, really easy to use. And if you're not a techie and you're worried about that, if it doesn't work, try turning your computer off and on again. But it is that easy. It is plug and play as far as I'm concerned, and that is fantastic. So yeah, I also think it looks really nice, just as a side point. And the final pro, which I think is actually a massive pro, and I wasn't expecting to say this because I was kind of annoyed when they announced the retail model, even though I pre-ordered it almost instantly. As you can see with the Rift here, it has headphones on the side. Now these headphones are adjustable to any height, length, so wherever they are, they swivel and sit on your ears perfectly, and they're really comfortable, and this is where I'm actually really surprised. They are one of the best pairs of headphones I own. I'm not even joking. I have a pair of Beats Pros, which a load of your audio files go, well, yeah, they're better than them. Got a pair of Beats Pros. I've got a pair of the Razer Krakens, both quite bass heavy. These have really good positional movement, and the Pros have really good instrument separation. However, in terms of a flat sound signature, these are probably the best headphones I own. There's plenty of bass, vocals are clear, there's plenty of treble, and they are really good. Not as good as the Krakens, but as good, I'd actually say equally good as the Krakens, positional tracking. So stuff like the actual virtual surround that they produce, obviously because there's only 2 drivers, is fantastic. And I actually think in terms of the audio signature, they're the best sounding headphones I own, which is kind of embarrassing when I spent £300 on Beats Pros, but I'd say for the price tag, you get a damn good pair of headphones with it. They're detachable, of course, if you want to use your own. You've got a high-end pair of, I don't know, Sennheiser cans that you prefer to use. But the headphones are actually a pro. I was expecting it to be they're alright sounding headphones, but I don't know why they didn't just let you use your own and make the device cheaper. They're really good headphones. And if you need a pair of gaming headphones, just buy it and stick them on your head. Just rip the display off it. No, I'm kidding. Don't do that. It's not worth it for that price. But they sound like very premium headphones, and I'm really surprised by that. So whoever you work with to produce these speakers, or the drivers for the headphones themselves, thank you, Oculus. You picked the right partner because they are fantastic headphones, and I'm super impressed with those. So if you guys were worried about buying it because of the headphones, which I actually was, I thought it was just an add-on extra that I didn't want, don't let that put you off because they sound fantastic and actually have replaced my daily drivers when I'm using it every day. Now let's move on to the cons of the device. So number one is the price. As previously mentioned, £500, or if you're in the US, $600 US. Costs a little bit more in England because £500 is a lot more than $600 US, but it's expensive. Not to mention the fact that you need a high-end, and I'm talking very high-end gaming PC to run the actual device itself. Now, the actual device has 2 separate screens, one for each eye, each with a resolution of 1920 by 1200, so slightly higher than Full HD per eye. So it is the same as running a little bit more than 2 Full HD displays simultaneously. So you need some like serious graphics card horsepower. Minimum spec being a GTX 970, which is probably, I wouldn't recommend that. I've got 2 980s, which means I can run all the games at the 90 frames a second frame rate with all the graphics settings capped. But that's what I would recommend. Either SLI 9, I'd recommend SLI 970s or 980 Ti, or preferably SLI 980s. That's a bit overkill, but that's what I've got to run this thing with absolutely no hitches and complete and utter smoothness with no issues whatsoever. I would recommend an SLI setup, and not SLI 960s either. I'm talking a minimum of SLI 970s or a single 980. I personally think a 970 is probably a bit low spec, but if you put the graphics settings down, it'll run it, and in all honesty, in VR, it doesn't seem to make much difference. Lucky's Tale on low doesn't seem particularly different from Lucky's Tale on high, because all the textures are pretty mushy, and that doesn't make much difference. So take it with a grain of salt, but I'd say you need a bit more graphics card horsepower than the minimum spec to have a flawless experience like I've had with the device. What else have we got in cons? So other than price and the fact that you need a several £1,000 or at least $1,000 gaming rig to power it, £2,000 is very expensive for the experience. It's a novelty that wears off relatively quickly. you're not going to be using it forever because it isn't good enough for that yet. So the premium of buying it all just for the virtual reality experience, if you're not going to use the gaming PC as a dedicated gaming device, don't go ahead and build one just to play it with virtual reality, because it's not worth the £2,000 it's going to cost you to get it all set up. Other cons. Steam VR has many issues. The web browser's not great in it and doesn't really work with the VR headset. Obviously it's meant to work with the HTC Vive, but I'm using it with the Rift. But it all integrates well. It does boot up, and it is, again, plug and play. But it's not brilliant. If you try and play some games in theatre mode, it does hinder your graphics card horsepower, you know, running the theatre that you're sat in virtual reality at the same time as the game on the virtual screen. Because obviously you can play any game on a virtual screen in VR, so it feels like you're sat in front of a 100-inch monitor. In fact, you're just in the headset. But that means the frame rate and input latency is a bit too high on the game you're playing, especially if you want to play something like COD competitively. You cannot do it. And GTA requires too much graphics horsepower in the first place to actually run that simultaneously with the VR as well, with all the settings cranked to the max at 1080p. So the theatre doesn't really work. It's great for viewing videos. You want to watch video content on it, go ahead, buy it, because it's brilliant for that. But in the meantime, you're kind of stuck with watching videos, because games don't really run well in the theatre with the headset running if you want to play competitively or at really high frame rates that I'm used to. So that's another issue with it, I guess. Slight motion sickness, as previously mentioned. Yeah, you get a little bit sick playing. You don't get ill, but you feel a little bit off. You don't feel 100%. And I think that does hinder the fact that I don't really want to put it on if I'm not feeling great in the first place. There's not a lot of content for it. There's no dedicated Netflix or YouTube apps in the Oculus store. And the ones on Steam where you can launch web browsers, as previously mentioned, are hard to navigate and don't work very well. So the lack of content and lack of games also is a problem for it at the moment. With Eve Valkyrie, probably Adrift, Lucky's Tale, and they're probably the only ones I'd recommend really grabbing right now as of this moment to play, because I'm not a particularly big fan of indie titles, but I like platformers, and anything first person is going to be pretty good. But at the moment, they're the ones I'd highly recommend, and that's it. That's a lot of money for 3 games that are really good and movie watching in it. So yeah, you know, we're waiting for more content to come out. I think the platform needs to develop a lot more before it's mainstream, but we'll see how that goes. In 6 months' time, we might have loads of content out there, Netflix apps, YouTube apps, and maybe some 360 video apps that are a bit better than what we've got at the moment. When that happens, that's going to be fantastic. So I know Facebook are investing a lot into 3D cameras at the moment for full 360-degree camera kind of pick-up stuff, and the fact that they're doing that means that there is going to be more content coming out for this thing. But in the meantime, there isn't a lot right now as of this point, so don't jump the gun to buy one right now. If the 3 games and the movies aren't really appealing to you, and they're not really appealing, don't jump the gun, because there's not a lot of content yet, and I'm still waiting to see when content's going to be coming out for it. There's a cable, as you can see, the big cable hanging off the back of the headset for the HDMI and USB 3. It's one cable that splits at the end. That's always over your shoulder or over the front of you, and kind of makes it a little bit less immersive in my opinion. So yeah, again, that's kind of annoying. VR will be a lot better when it's wireless and you're more free, but in the meantime there's a cable that you can run over with your chair and get tangled up in and just generally piss you off. So yeah, we need better wireless technologies that's capable of streaming video streams latency free at that sort of distance without a cable before VR is going to be super mainstream. Maybe an add-on to this device to make it wireless in the future would be great, but at the moment there is a cable, it tethers you to your PC, and it does remove you from the virtual reality experience a bit and makes you a little bit less immersed and gets in the way, just a little bit uncomfortable. Not a great fan of the big thick cable. So yeah, tracking space is not as good as the HTC Vive. That's one of the only downsides against it as well. It's pretty much you've got to sit down to use this device. Again, there's a cable on both, so you're tethered to anything no matter which headset you get at the moment. Cables mean you can't walk around in virtual reality. In my opinion, at the moment, VR is in the state where you have to be sat down and play a game sat in your seat that can spin as a maximum kind of movement. So when we get like multi-directional treadmills that are, you know, affordable and in your home, it'd be great to have wireless virtual reality. But at the moment, you can only be virtually somewhere sat down or completely stood up. So yeah, you know, you can't run around in virtual reality yet. We're not there yet. And if you want that sort of experience, you're going to have to fork out a hell of a lot for a multi-directional treadmill like the Omni. Pay someone to hold the cable and keep it out of the way while you run around like a muppet, and it's pretty much just unachievable for most people, and there isn't enough space for it anyway in most people's homes. So that needs work. We need to develop a better way of moving around in virtual reality rather than just being sat down, and it does not have a solution for that yet. There's also no warning camera on the front of the device. It's completely clear, as you can see, which makes it look fantastic. It's the better looking of the devices, I think. It looks really clean, really premium, but you can run into things, and I have, when I was looking down on Lucky's tail to see the character Lucky, I have hit my head on the desk a few times and smacked the Oculus, which isn't a very nice experience. Number one, because it's so expensive, but number two, because it's on your face and it hits you in the face. So a warning camera like the HTC Vive has will probably be a good implementation, preferably one that doesn't stick out as much and would be better integrated with the minimalist design that's already on it. That would be much appreciated in the reiteration of it, and that's pretty much it for the cons. Now, the one major thing that's going to make me say, do not buy it, the technology is not ready, that is the pixel density. Yes, it's through the roof. 1920 by 1200 per eye, giving it a pixel density of in excess of 500, I think. I think it must be about 500 or 600 pixels per inch. That is crazy. That is the highest pixel density screen, with the exception of the Xperia Z5, in the world. That's crazy pixel density. Absolutely blows off any 4K TV out of the water by 1,000,000 to none. It is absolutely stupid. The amount of pixels on the screen at that size is absolutely crazy. It's new technology, which is why it's so expensive, and it's really hard to produce, and isn't mass produced yet really, which is why this thing is so expensive. But it is not good enough. Stuff close up, like looking at my hand in virtual reality, that would be great. That's fine, because that's nice and big and close up and uses a lot of the pixels. But in VR, you can look into the distance, far into the trees and things, and they don't look good because of the pixel density. For true VR, we're going to need some stupid-ass 20K resolution monitor in an actual device that small, with graphics cards that are able to push that sort of screen, for you to look into the distance and it to feel exactly like real life. It doesn't do that yet. We are far from that sort of technology. Maybe in 10 years, at the rate the monitors are improving, maybe in 10 years. But right now, the pixel density is too low to be completely immersive. When you're moving around in game, you don't notice it too much. When you're looking at Lucky's tail at stuff close up, it looks great. But when you look into the distance, you can tell you've got a screen on your face. Just saying, you can see them pixels, you can see the lines, even with it properly set up. Stuff close up looks fantastic, the motion looks fantastic, looking around is fantastic. But I want to be able to look into the distance. I want to be somewhere else, and it does not provide that yet. So, in conclusion, unless you're an enthusiast early adopter, or one of the games really highly appeals to you, I've got to say, this device probably isn't for you. Unless you're really into VR and you really want to try it, I'd say get a mate to buy it who's got more money than you, because it's a hell of a lot of money. Get someone else to buy it, or maybe share it, because it's a novel experience. It's not something you're going to want to use every day. There is not enough pixel density. There is a cable attached to it. This technology is too new, and there is loads of stuff for it. There's not loads of stuff for it. You need more content. We need the pixel density to be higher, and we need it to be not tethered to the computer before this can be mainstream, and then the price tag would probably be justifiable. But as of right now, unless you're a muppet like me, an enthusiast early adopter, I probably wouldn't get a Rift. But you got 500 quid burning a hole in your pocket, do it. It's really fun. It's brilliant. It's fantastic fun. I just don't think the technology is quite where it has to be true virtual reality. At the moment, it's virtual reality, not virtual reality, if that makes sense. You're not there. You're there, but you're not there. That was a really weird conclusion. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at Bandicoot101. Like my Facebook page at Bandicoot101, and follow me on Instagram at Bandicoot101. Links to all that good social media stuff will be down in the description below. So subscribe for more VR, gaming, tech, and vlog content. And I will see you guys very soon with another video. And I hope you guys have a good day. Also, share the content because it helps me out a massive amount. And if you want to see more VR content, which I assure you will be coming soon, other gaming stuff, hit that sub button. Also helps me out a great amount. And yeah, just have a good day, guys.